Starfield, one of the worst, most disappointing slop experiences in gaming ever. And Starfield Shattered Space managed to be even worse somehow. And all of that delivered by once an absolutely beloved gaming development company called Bethesda. Oh, how the times are changing.
You know what absolutely blows? Being a cog in the machine. Now, in this video, we detail the fallout of the mid and post-COVID studio gold rush, where AAA vets were being thrown cash only for investors to, in not that long, flinch, and entire studios have been going under. And that's sad news if you, like me, were excited by the idea of Mass Effect's director and its lead creative running two separate studios, both trying to make a science fiction RPG. That was very sad. Now,
Well, why would I be happy about a Mass Effect director who probably made Andromeda? Or who made the three-color ending of the Mass Effect 3? Why would I be happy about a person like that making a game, though?
today is a bit of a different speed, but it's one that is actually still sparked by science fiction, in this case by Starfield, and one man who looked around him at Bethesda and thought, screw this, I cannot hack it anymore, and he went indie. And the big point is he is not the only one. This is a bit of a trend. The game industry is actually changing, and this time it doesn't actually look like the doomed gold rush that was inflicted by those dangerously alluring 0% interest COVID-era dump trucks full of money that of course just, turned out to betray everybody. I don't have one of those dump trucks of money, but thankfully, I've got today's sponsor. For the absolute best of what they do, they're boot.dev, and here's the deal with them, right?
They don't sponsor me ever, so don't use them. They are absolute trash until they sponsor me.
This is Nate Perkipile. Now, he left Bethesda Game Studios during the development of Starfield, and it's not like he was a small fry, he was a lead on that project, and recently he was the focus of this piece by Jason Schreier, and to be honest, he paints a picture that is my own personal hell. So he had this to say, quote, I can pretty safely say there's not a single day I've ever contemplated going back. Another quote is this great one. That scale of production is not necessarily enjoyable for a lot of people. You're very much a cog in the machine. Now, the reasons why.
Okay. So I'm supposed to be what? Inspired? Find meaning? Find glory? Agree with these quotes from a guy who literally probably spent half of his adulthood career in a company that he now says is bad? I'm sorry, why am I supposed to take a person who got literally probably abused by his own words in that place for such a long time seriously? I'm sorry, why am I supposed to respect that? He honestly sounds like a complete Muppet type of failure. I don't get it. Is this supposed to be good?
Why he wouldn't want to go back is, well, because it seems soul-crushing. In his capacity as a lead dev working on Starfield, he had 20 meetings a week. Now that is the sort of thing that, in a way, you might need to do to keep teams and teams of people.
No, that's never what you need to do. It doesn't matter how big the company. There is no world where any lead needs to go to 20 meetings a week. That is insanity. Honestly, 3 even meetings a week is insanity.
Teams totaling multiple hundreds aligned on a project, and frankly, when you look at Starfield from a content perspective, I think you can tell that too many people were making it. Now, for Nate, he says that this was nothing like his time working on Fallout 3 or Skyrim, and those were done with teams under 100 people. And there is a point there that's not the main one of this video, but I still need to mention it. Time and time again, we're seeing some smaller teams disrupt. And yeah, sure, there's outsourcing involved in all sides, and that absolutely holds for the big players, but here's just one example. Grinding Gear Games has got under 200 people. Diablo 4 was Blizzard's largest internal team at a point where we knew that World of Warcraft was like 550 to 600 people. Over 600 people. Now, it is true, there is less Path of Exile 2 than there is Diablo 4. Diablo 4 is really big because it was made by so many people, but...
Wait, what? Oh, I thought he's gonna say how many people worked on Diablo 4. I think the official number of people to work on Diablo 4 is somewhere between 1,000 and 10,000. Yes, potentially 10,000 different people actually had a hand in creating Diablo 4. And also, is Diablo 4 actually big? I would say no. I would say Diablo 4 is small because the reality is you just get on your mount, you skippity do that until the quest marker, and you do the quest. That's not a lot. You see this right here? It's the same everywhere else. That this is not unique. This is the same everywhere else. So I don't know if I would call Diablo 4 actually big. Yeah, it definitely feels open worldish and kind of biggish, but is it actually big? I think we can I think we can easily say no here if we want to.
What one do people seem to respect and enjoy more? I think there is something to be said for smaller teams, and if we were to return to Nate, to Oblivion, and the ones he worked on, like Fallout 3 and Skyrim, well, all of those games were peak Bethesda jank, because it's Bethesda, they're never not going to be that. But they came with a Bethesda character.
Oh god, I thought we were past this, Bellier. I thought we were past giving Bethesda the pass because, oh look at it, it's Bethesda, they have the special needs helmet on so they don't hit their head against the concrete ground. No, this is not an excuse. Bethesda needing a special helmet on all the time because it's hurting itself is not an excuse for jank. Bethesda's just bad at coding. They're bad at making games, they're bad at making interesting stories, they're bad at fixing bugs. It's not some magical Bethesda jank. No, it's sad at this point. Starfield wasn't fun bugs. Starfield was sad bugs. Okay? Fallout 76 was non-stop bugs literally every 30 seconds. Again, some people did not play Fallout 76 on launch. I did. I did. And again, this is no over-exaggeration. In Fallout 76, you encountered the bug roughly every 1 minute of gameplay. Sometimes you couldn't even go 30 seconds without actually encountering a bug that literally broke the game or completely took you out of it. It was insanity. It really was pure insanity. Everything was busted. This is not playful, funny jank. This is just incompetence.
Character that I think, and seemingly in most people's opinion, Starfield kinda lacked. Now, Nate has decided to become an indie, a one-man band indie. He's using Unreal Engine 5, and he actually just released his first game. The game is called The Axis Unseen, and it's billed as a heavy metal horror. It's got a demo, it costs £19.99, and it has 180 reviews, with an overall score of 80% in Steam. Now, that is by no way a runaway hit. It will not be purchasing Nate Lambos, but that's actually why it is a good thing to talk about in today's video. Survivorship bias could make it look like you can just go indie, put together a few nice things from, common tools we'll get into soon, and just print money. That's absolutely not the case. The games industry is still extremely hard. I'm going to crunch some numbers based on my own experience and what's kind of seen as like common industry wisdoms. So it used to be that you would average like 50 sales, maybe 55 sales per Steam review. These days, the common wisdom is not as great. It's more like 35. Now, in this game's case, that would come out to 6,300 sales. Now, I'm just going to model this in USD, which, to be honest, is going to be optimistic.
Wait, I need to hear that again, sorry.
Like 50 sales, maybe 55 sales per Steam review. These days, the common wisdom is not as great. It's more like 35. Now, in this game's case, that would come out to...
Oh, okay, so one Steam review equals 30 games sold. Okay, I believe that. I believe that. This is kind of the same almost as my, hey, if 1,000 people are playing the game, that means that most likely roughly 10,000 copies were sold, but the plus minus can be roughly 50% as wild as that is. And it sometimes happens, it's rare, but it does happen. To 6,300 sales. Now, I'm just going to model this in USD, which, to be honest, is going to be optimistic. And looking at the pricing data, we can see that bar a 10% launch sale, there has not been a discount. So let's just assume 3/4 of sales were during the launch discount period, and that would put revenue at $145,629. It released October 22nd, 2024, which means that as of the time of me finalizing this video script, we have 47 days worth of sales. But of course, that is just top revenue. Steam refund rates tend to roll between 10% and 15%. Let's be nice and just take 10% of that revenue off, which brings us down to $131,066. But then there's... That is probably incorrect, Matt. The amount of cashbacks on Steam refunds, AK, are gonna highly depend on the overall is the game rated positively, negatively, or in the middle. That's gonna influence hugely how many returns you have.
Steam's 30% cut. That occurs after other chargebacks, refunds, etc. And that would bring Nate down from $131K to $91,746. Now, when working with a publisher, I was told that basically you can count on seeing 50% of the Steam top-line revenue number actually trickle through into what you will get. Now, by you, I don't mean literally you, the developer, I mean that your publisher gets, and then it will go through whatever deal you've got with your publisher. And of course, for Nate,
does he have a publisher?
That's pretty good because he's self-published. Now here, even me just modeling...
Yeah, I think in gaming we're gonna move past the idea that you need publishers, because do people even know what EA actually does? EA does marketing and stuff. That's it. That's what a publisher does. Pretty much just marketing. And the reality is, there's no guarantee that it's gonna be successful. And the publishing deals are extremely publisher favorite. Okay, typically it's, what was it, like 30 to 50, 60, or even 70 sometimes percent, as much as I know, of the revenue the game generates gets given to the publisher. And if the publisher failed and their ad campaign was trash and no one bought it, you still have to pay the publisher. And there are worse deals than that, by the way, also. For example, a situation where you get a publisher, you need to give them 50% of your revenue from the game, but until the publisher actually covers their costs for publishing for you, you don't make a single penny, which creates a situation where there are actually some games on Steam that have been out for like 10 years and not made a single cent because everything's going to the publisher, which is hilarious. I think publishers are soon going to be a thing of the past, because why would people buy publishers? It's the same as being in a YouTube network. It has been irrelevant for literally more than 7 years at this point. Previously, being in a network actually meant something because then you could get paid and you could run ads. But nowadays, they're just gonna skim off the top and give you nothing. The same with publishers for games.
A 10% refund rate is actually very optimistic, especially because this game is, well, an 80% user review, and it did have Unreal Engine 5 related issues on AMD cards because, yeah, it is current year, and there are sometimes AMD video card driver issues. I guess that'll just never not be true. And then, of course, Nate will have to deal with various different taxes and expenses. I'm not a US tax expert, or for his state specifically, but by this stage, I think you get the picture.
No, I actually, great part to pause, because I was gonna say, so what the hell is this? Lead developer on Starfield leaves Bethesda and says it was horrible, it was bad, and then creates shit that no one honestly wants to play and it fails? Well, am I the only one who doesn't see what's the takeaway supposed to be here? I'm so confused. The only takeaway I'm currently getting here that I'm right when I said that everyone at Bethesda is a talentless loser. That's the only thing I'm getting from all of this. That, yeah, everyone at Bethesda is talentless and shit at their job. 10 out of 10.
Axis Unseen took 3 years to develop. It's largely a solo effort, but when you go through the credits, you do see soundtrack, localization, some art, animations, etc. were worked on by other people, all of which will have incurred cost. Suffice to say, if you were modeling an hourly rate across 3 years of 40-hour work weeks, it's not looking particularly amazing, although he does have one thing in his favor, and that is an epic mega grant which will have helped with the funding of this game project. And it does make sense because it's actually what takes us to the main topic of today's video.
Okay.
In this, it's Unreal, and looking through the interviews, it's clear that the likes of the Quixel Megascan assets were a humongous force multiplier for at least this one dev. Now, in a way, this does all seem kind of depressing, right? This is a positive to mixed launch from an experienced developer who got strong enough press because just his story inherently, and did do some of the indie festivals. But of course, It's only 47 days after. Nate has not done a deep enough discount to actually trigger the mass notification of wishlisters. That's how that works in Steam. Or any of the storefront visibility that you're going to get once you take part in, say, the Steam Winter Sale. And taking a glance through the game's updates, it's pretty clear he's been responding to loads of feedback, which should mean that
Good.
whenever it is time to hit the big sale button, there will be way more revenue. And that means a game like this can be an asset to a studio for 5, 10 years, maybe more. The point, though, is it's no overnight success.
An asset is something in this situation that keeps generating money, so it's going to be theoretically an asset as long as it sells on Steam. Not for a random time period of 5 to 10 years.
But I want you to take that in the context of the interview with Jason Schreier. He says he has not thought of going back. That's a sentiment that matters, and if you think about it, nobody's going to fire...
Oh, and also, why would I care about anything Jason Cuck Schreier actually does or says?
Him for missing a revenue target. There are no investors that are going to rotate from the game sector into the AI sector and just leave you in the lurch. And going through the literature, one of the largest contributors to people's sense of burnout is a lack of perceived control over their circumstances. And I think the real cost of 20 meetings a week, which I'm sure for a lot of people is actually quite light, it's not in dollars, it's in the will to live. So, we have this one story, but there are so many more examples. So let's zoom out and tackle the industry and the sorts of game successes we can be seeing. Here's a pretty cool thing. 3 of 2024's top-rated games are small-scale indies, actually small-scale. They're Balatro, The Crimson Diamond, and Animal Well. I didn't say top-selling, I said top-rated. Another example is UFO 50 that's loved, another one is Vampire Survivors Ode to Castlevania.
Nice.
Each one is doing something that is distinct, and it's coming directly from the personal
Castlevania is such a good game, I love it.
Interest of the people behind those games.
Oh, I don't mean actually not Castlevania, I'm sorry, but Vampire Survival. Castlevania is also great, but Vampire Survival is amazing.
Rather shocking, and that channels the energy that the Larian founder Sven brought to the Game Awards, where he basically TLDR said, the best games come from people who actually want to make them, not the executives and the marketing trends. He's absolutely right.
Yeah?
And for a lot of these small-scale indies, we're very much seeing that. There's a lot to say about tooling in this video, but pure personal passion and the desire to make that specific game, that is the ultimate force multiplier. One of those ones that's just damn hard to hire for because, for these people, the game's theirs. And a perfect example is Manor Lords, a hit from earlier this year. It was in large part done by one man, along with a band of freelancers and a publisher that backed the vision and didn't force the game out the door too early. And in every case with these games that I've mentioned, they were doing something different. Take with Manor Lords. We know that was him just wanting to make his personal dream city builder. And it's something he was able to do, down to one major change in our industry over the past number of years, and that is tooling. Both Axis Unseen and Manor Lords were made in Unreal Engine. Now, Unseen Axis was made using, full-fat AAA tools. Nate was using easily accessible virtual reality sculpting tools and ready-made terrain solutions, the sorts of things that, if you just look at the Unity store, you'll see loads of them. And a big Unreal Engine 5 feature came in clutch for him. It's called Nanite, and it was one of the more impressive things from the presentation that basically blew everybody's minds that unveiled UE5. With Nanite, he could import hyper-detailed models that maybe were intended or originally...
She's hot, but I feel a bad vibe, okay? Which means I can fix her.
Or originally made for film or really for anything. He could put those models in, he could use those mega scan textures, and the engine would just handle it. Now, if you're not really coming from a game engine background or whatever, you may think, well, yeah, of course, you got your 3D model, you put it in the game, there it is, it's in the game, and there we go. That's not exactly how it works. In days gone by, there were whole stages of that pipeline where a lot of people were doing manual optimization work to get that kind of thing actually feasible in a game.
Oh, I know what this discussion is. This was actually really popular because this is very cool. Unreal Engine 5, before it came out, everyone was excited about it for one big reason, because at some point making games is going to be super easy because the engine will handle everything. You won't need to code shit. You know, potentially, you're just going to say what needs to happen here, and AI makes it happen here. So effectively, we're gonna sooner or later reach a stage where single person made game projects are gonna most likely be the future of the game industry, because anyone will be able to make a game. Because the engine will literally do everything for you. Because it's going to have AI that understands what you're saying and it's going to implement it how you say it, and then you get to tweak things. It's going to be amazing. When that future is here, oh boys, it's going to be good to be a gamer.
Nanite's a major evolution because the engine just handles that itself, which is damn impressive. Now, we can also take Greg, the developer of Manor Lords. He started off using RPG Maker and then he moved to Unreal, and just like Nate, he was heavily crediting the availability of, example, free resources like Epic's Megascans. I don't know if they're free right now, but at least for a decent while there, Epic were just giving them all away for free. And to quote from Greg, talking about these things, he says, "These are the most crucial features of developers that don't get talked about much." So that's the main thing as, as consumers for us to know. Tools like this are actually...
Now, admittedly, I have to say, this is not a Starfield lead quits and has no regrets video. I feel kind of baited here. This has nothing to do with Starfield, which is sad because I hate Starfield with a passion, and I was looking forward to hate Starfield with a passion a little bit more here, Believer. Anyway, 10 out of 10. Bye.